I'd like to welcome everybody to our December meeting. You know, we're trying to be responsive to concerns that people bring to me and the board. And, you know, one of them is the service before the meeting. You'll notice we had a sign up, you know, try to keep it quiet. We really do appreciate that we be respectful while we're having minions. So we really do appreciate that, and if you'll keep that in mind, we'll try to have that sign available to us. And we try to shorten the service to make it as reasonable in length, but respectful in length as we can, especially to those that are participating. And I'd like to thank Bill, where's Bill? And Rich for leading that service. We really do appreciate your effort. I'd like to give a special welcome back to Mike Roosevelt, and with our condolences, and you know, we really appreciate you coming out today. I know we have a number of guests. I'm going to start on the left side, and I'm going to ask them to stand up, and I've kind of hopefully asked the table captains to come up with one question that their table would like to know of our guest. We're really just trying to break the ice to make them feel comfortable in joining us. So I'm going to start on the left side here. I think it's Mel. Mel, would you kind of come over this way? I guess I'll walk over to you because I have the microphone on.
I'm Mel Getzoff. I'm a member of JCC, and this is my first meeting here.
Welcome.
Thank you. We have a question for Mel.
Mel, how did you hear about the men's club?
Thank you.
I received an email from Dick Knopf.
Great. Great.
I don't know Dick Knopf, but we don't either. It was someone must have given
Knopf does not exist.
my name.
We don't know either.
That's a plus. That's a plus.
Yeah. Also, well, what did you do in your working life, and what are your
My
hobbies?
working life, I did as little as possible. No, I worked in marketing and advertising.
What are your hobbies?
My hobbies? One question.
Yeah.
Mostly photography and writing.
Could you repeat that?
Photography and writing.
Photography and writing.
There you go, Mike.
And writing. We might have something that would be of interest to you. Okay, we also have, I believe, over on the right here, Ralph.
Gerson? My name is Gerson Sigmund, and I'm a friend. I played poker with Ed Stein and Dr. Bob. They've been talking. Ed's been talking about the membership or the men's club, so I decided to join. I brought my father-in-law, Ralph Bernheim, a veteran from World War II. He fought for the Japanese Army. I mean, the U.S. Army.
Sunshine.
And my brother-in-law. Howard Bernheim. Any questions?
Are you a good poker player?
I have some good nights. I have some bad nights.
He's so good we named the game after.
What did you do in your prior to retirement?
I was an accountant.
An accountant.
Good profession.
Gentlemen, welcome. Do we have any other guests that I missed? Any other guests?
Well, like this, when you have a chance, you want to talk about Ralph. Has some great stories from World War II.
Ralph might be. If you want to introduce yourself, but we might save your good stories as a guest speaker.
We'll see about that. My name's Ralph Bernheim. I'm 92 years old.
All right.
I'll be 93 in February.
You were a member of the veterans?
I didn't hear that.
A member of the veterans.
Jewish war veterans?
I think it says veteran on his hat.
Oh, I'm a veteran of the Second World War, and I was stationed in the Pacific. But I had a soft job. I was stationed in Hawaii for 3 years in medical supply, and I worked in an office with 7 Hawaiian girls.
And you still found your way here?
Right. Up until a few months back, I lived in Pennsylvania. We had a home there, raised a family. For 43 years I lived there. And just recently moved here to New Jersey in Cinnaminson. And the reason I did it, I don't know if I did the right thing or not, but the reason I did it is my daughter and son-in-law moved into the same apartment building as I am. So she's looking out for me.
Good.
That's about it.
Great.
Introduce yourself.
I'm just here as a visitor today with my dad. I live in Bucks County, Howard Bernheim. And my father has always great stories to tell around the dinner table, either jumping off of an ice truck or about the war and so on and so forth. But I'm just here as a visitor. Thank you.
I'm glad you're here. And for our guests, we have a tradition that if we're going to ask our guests to stand up and lead us in a motzi, and we'll join in, and then we'll enjoy our breakfast. So, guests, if you'll stand up, and everybody else could do it too. And we'll start. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min ha'oretz. Get started with our meeting. First, I'd like to thank our table captains for collecting money at their table. Guys, table captains, just raise your hand. Thank you guys for collecting the money at your table. It makes Ed's job a whole lot easier and helps us out with attendance. We'll start with a finance report. Ed, if you want to come up here so you could share the mic.
Yeah, we're still in the process, as you probably realize from some of you who paid today, of collecting dues for the year. I would say with the people that paid at breakfast this morning, we're up probably just a shade over 60. So we still have 20 or 30 people to go that well, they haven't been here, I would say, since we started collecting back in September. So we'll have another set of bills that goes out. Marty just gave them to me this morning. In the next day or two, and hopefully we'll get everybody joined up. I've left on the table a few copies of this year's operating budget, and basically we have a break-even budget with our dues and our meeting income. The miscellaneous income is the 50/50, and the expenses, of course, are our food, the room rental here at the JCC. And some various other minor expenses. The Jewish Men's Club, we're a member of the national organization, and we pay dues to them, and some miscellaneous expenses. But it's based on 85 paid members, so we really need to get up to that. If you have any friends who haven't been at a meeting recently and haven't paid their dues, get them back here. We need them.
And they get a free breakfast.
And they get a free breakfast, of course, the first time, as we all did. It's based on an average meeting attendance. The budget is based on an average attendance of 35 people. And I took a quick count before I got up here, and I think that's about what we have this morning, 35, 36, somewhere around there, plus our guests. So that's our budget for the year. We need, I guess, approval on that, Don. The board's approved it, and I guess we should have a general show of hands for membership.
Any questions first on
Be glad to
the budget? They are on the table.
I have a question. Do you send out another blanket mailing, or do you take off the names of people who have already paid?
Oh, no, we take off, and we only send out to the people who haven't paid.
Okay.
Yeah, I think last time...
No, I don't, because that's what happens too often. Maybe not.
Nobody's paid twice, so I think I think our age isn't showing.
With no questions on the budget, show of hands if we can get a vote on approving the budget. Those opposed? Abstentions? The budget is approved.
Thankfully.
We did that a little late, but we did it. Ed, thanks so much. I think we're all set there. And again, if you haven't bought a 50/50, they still are available. Dick Knopf is our membership chairperson, and he handles the JAG survey, the Jewish Athletic Group, and our membership interest survey. He's also involved working with Jerry, and Jerry is working on our new name tags. Jerry, did you bring any with you?
No,
or?
I did not.
Okay. But I saw it the other day. It's really a sharp name tag, and actually it's the same logo that we have here. And it looks really sharp, and the board will obviously have to decide ultimately whether we accept that or go with something else. Ed?
With Dick Knopf not being here, we have 2 potential new members. Is there any form for them to fill out?
I don't know if I have any. I'll have to look when I get. Oh, you do? Great. Great. Dave has them.
Remember that table has joined. He needs an app, and I think there was one other or not.
Ned?
If you give me the names of the people, of the new members, I'll email Dick, so they'll make the names.
Okay, can I ask you just to circulate to them and get the names for me so I don't have to stop the meeting for that, if you don't mind? There and that table.
Already written down.
Unless, Ed, you already have those?
I have Gerson's name, and of course I know him. I don't remember whether
I
they
have the
have.
other one here. So
Okay.
Yeah, if somebody has the forms, let's get them filled out.
Yeah, there's a... Jerry, would you just mind? There's one behind you. I know one over there. Thank you. Also, you'll notice I'm wearing our shirt, and the board did approve that we're going to try to, again, increase our recognition at all activities, and that's why I wore mine today, and we would encourage you to start wearing them at our meetings. The board did approve that new members were going to increase their membership fee $10 only initially the first time, and our club will subsidize the other $10 so that you would get your shirt. And then existing members, we're going to also work something out where you'll be able to get a shirt. But it's great when we go to an event, and if we have 20, 30, whatever number it is, people at seeing us, they identify us as a group, and some people come up and say, well, what's that group? And maybe they'd want to get involved. We already ordered, I think it was 20 more that Barry Rosenberg did for us. Mine was probably one of the more expensive shirts because I ordered mine with a coffee stain over here that I was... It's hard, the name tag isn't big enough to hide the... But whatever. Okay, mitzvah cards. Len, would you want to comment a little bit about those for us?
Well, mitzvah cards are available whenever you want them. Just call the house or email me, and it will be sent out the same day. I'm going to start changing the format. I will keep a record of who sends it, and then if you send me an email, I can send you back a notification that the card has gone out. I have a new email address which I will give to our fearless leader, and he can spread that around. Okay? The cards are $5 a piece, I believe, and you bring your money here and pay it when you at the next meeting.
There is a link to you on the South Jersey Men's Club website.
Yeah.
And if you've got a new email address, does that mean that it's going to link to the old email address?
Well, it will. It's okay, because either one is useful. If it's easier to leave it with the old email address, that'd be fine. Just leave it.
Okay, fine.
who do we make payment to?
South Jersey Men's Club.
South Jersey Men's Club.
It's not.
Well, not make it payable and send it to me, or give it to me in the meeting. $5 is the standard donation.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. MAR, Dave, would you?
I'm the contact between this club and MAR, and basically they have a variety of programs, and I won't get into it too deeply. But one of the problems with MAR and us is that they have a thing called Superior Club program. And if it was just our good deeds, we'd do very well. The problem is you get bonus points for things that you can only do in a synagogue, like running a service in a synagogue, or doing rap, the tefillin rap program, and so forth. So there's no way in the world that we can ever cross the threshold and be a supreme organization in the eyes of the region. I've told them many times, but that's the program they have. But outside of that, they also asked me, and I talked to Don, to inform Don, make sure that he's aware of various programs that the region is putting on. And I think Don will talk in a little while about a program for training new board members. You're going to be talking about that. And that's another program that I'm involved in. Yep.
One quick question, David. For those people who knew, could you tell them what MAR stands for?
Okay. The organization that we're involved in is the umbrella organization is called the Federation of Jewish Men's Clubs, which covers men's clubs in North America, conservative men's clubs in North America and Canada. They have regions, and one of the regions is the Middle Atlantic region, which covers southern New Jersey, Delaware, and the southeast part of Pennsylvania. We have there, therefore, because of the river that runs between us. There are various things that they hold, and we hope that we will participate in. For example, I see Alan Finkelstein over there. One of the programs they have developed is called Tour de Shul, which is a bicycle race. It was first year it was in Pennsylvania. This year it was supposed to be done in New Jersey too. But the clubs in synagogues, like Beth El and Beth Sholem and all that, really didn't participate enough to develop a program here. We're working on developing that next year, and so that we will have another program. And again, that's something that MAR puts out. Just for Alan's information and us, we brought this up at the Jewish Athletic Group meeting we need to have every year before the end of the year. And the Jewish Athletic Group also indicates that they will help support it. The Jewish Athletic Group is not conservative necessarily. It includes Reform, it includes Orthodox. So again, they do things, and somehow or another, sometimes it gets a lot of the Jewish community involved to do things together. Did I answer your question?
You certainly did. One follow-up question.
Sure.
Does the national require that we, as members of this local, also be members of the national, in terms of individual membership dues?
Right. We have to submit every year. The treasurer has to submit names to the national, and we have to pay. I believe it's $10 now. Right, Ed? $10 now?
Yes.
10.
Now, 11 is $10.
Yeah, I think it went up. I think it went up once. I think it's 11.
Whatever it is, it's $10 or $11 to them. And basically, what they do is they per person. And basically, what they do is they develop programs. For example, Ed has been involved in some of that. Programs like Hearing Men's Voices and so forth that again help run various meetings and help you run various meetings. So there is a conglomerate in terms of an organizational structure, us, the region, and the national.
Are we, as individuals here, required to pay dues to a national?
When we pay dues here,
Yes.
part of that goes to national.
Okay, so...
Goes through to our treasurer.
Yeah.
Comes out of the treasury. It's
Individual
on the
synagogues
budget.
have men's clubs. I know, and of course, I think the JCC has a men's club.
Well,
We have no connection, with that.
No, the JCC Men's Club is basically a bunch of guys, and maybe you might want to answer his question about the JCC Men's Club.
What was the
He's the president.
Chris, get up to the mic.
Well, what was the question?
He wants to know about the JC Men's Club.
Yeah, well, that's a separate men's club. It's just for the JCC seniors members. It's similar to this, except we serve a little bit differently than here. And meets about, well, it only meets 8 times a year. There's January and February, they don't meet because of the possibility of snow. And that's, and in the summer, we don't, on July and August, we don't meet.
Could be too hot.
Yeah, maybe too hot. I don't know what the reason was. So.
And the big difference is that they are just part of the JCC. They're not part of this national organization that we are.
Members, there are also members of JCC.
Yes.
Yes, you have to be.
And we don't.
What's the Portugal?
One of the things that Mike Perloff asked me to bring up is the Torch Awards. The Federation has awards that are given out at the conference that is held every other year. And over the years, this men's club, which is without a synagogue, used to be many years ago, has probably gotten more Torch Awards than any other men's club in synagogues. On top of which, our membership is about 85. We get about 3 dozen to a meeting. Bethel and Beth Sholem, that have hundreds of people in their men's club, are lucky to get the same people at a meeting. What I'm saying here is that our size belies what we do. We are also very, very active, more so than the other men's clubs, in community affairs, like helping run the dinner for the Middle East Institute, for traffic control, building the community secret. So we really do an awful lot. And when we submit things for Torch Awards, we have gotten a significant number of them. Okay, Mike? Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, Dave. Also, we have a sports program. I know softball is starting to gear up again. They'll be having the spring. Dave, before you sit down, I guess I should have had you.
Okay. As far as sports go, I'm the secretary of the Jewish Athletic Group. And again, we won the Torch Award for that. We formed the Jewish Athletic Group. It came about in terms of we need to get Jewish men together, and we're all kind of separated and we don't know each other. So sports was an obvious system for developing that, and it's been in existence since 1996. Okay, so I was the first, I formed it, I was the first president, I'm now the treasurer. I'm 80 years old, and they can't find anybody younger than me to take over some of the responsibilities. I keep saying, you know, you need to find some replacement. But the Jewish Athletic Group is successful primarily in softball. We used to have a much more active program in various other sports. It's gone downhill a little bit. So this year, I'm getting together with another member, he's with Temple Emmanuel, to try and reactivate a lot of the programs that we had before. We used to be very active in bowling, and used to be we used to win quite a few. We have racquetball, which now, I don't know how many people show up from this club in racquetball. Tennis. 1 year, Larry Bernstein helped win the tennis tournament for South Jersey Men's Club. Pinochle. We usually win that championship. Yes, right. No, that's in.
They wear helmets.
Now, that's interesting that you mention that, because what I found is that there's a representative from each men's club, and the representatives basically like softball. So when you tell them to send the message out about other sports, they send out the softball players. Or it becomes one of a little item in a mass mailing from the synagogue saying, here's a lot of stuff here, and down here is we have bowling. Well, most people don't read all that stuff. You click things off. I've been telling them for years that you've got to identify, like the survey we're conducting, as to who's interested in various sports. So, for example, I have a list, I don't know if Barry's still keeping it up, of who likes bowling, who likes racquetball. So we send out a specific email to those people headed by racquetball, rather than saying, here's stuff that the men's club is doing, and you click it off immediately. What we're going to try and do right now is to get all of the other clubs to also do the same kind of survey that we have been conducting, so that when something comes out for a particular event, it will go directly to the people who say they're interested in doing that. Now, that's something we're going to be doing over the next year, and we're going to see if it can revive some of the sports where the attendance has been going down over a period of time. Outside of that, softball is still there. We all have to, every club with a softball team has to put out $900, and hopefully all of that comes in from all of the players bringing in their portion of the cost of running the team.
Thank you, Dave. I'm going to come back to sports a little bit in a minute, but Yom HaShoah, Rich, do you mind
I've got too much to say. Yom HaShoah is going to be in April of this year. We work with the JCRC, helping coordinating the events of Yom HaShoah. We hand out the yellow Yortzeit candles, and so when I get more information about speakers and dates and things, we'll talk to you next month probably about that. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And Dave had mentioned there's a leadership training going on that MAR is sponsoring. I hope to attend. It's February 9th. They're looking for at least 2 officers. If somebody else on the board or in general is interested in joining me, please let me know. And
what's the location?
All I know is it's in Pennsylvania. I don't know, remember the name of it, but it is only situated somewhere in Pennsylvania. So that does limit the geographic portion.
Don, send an email out with the information.
Yeah. Okay, getting back to something we started this year that turned out to, I think, be a lot of fun for everybody. We had our first fantasy football league. And I'd like to make the presentations for that since our season is now over. And first we have somebody who has the distinction of not having necessarily to look over his shoulder to see who was gaining on him for the season. Although he finished extremely strong with 2 out of the last 3 weeks with the highest point total, Bob,
I finished 7th.
technically he's going to claim 7th, but he gets his payout of $22.50 for his finish. Our next recipient can't get closer to making the playoffs than he did. Mike Perloff was actually in the playoffs, and then the totals for the game was recalculated, and he went from, was it a half a point win to a loss, and actually Todd, my son, got the playoff spot.
0.35.
0.35, not to be too precise, but Mike gets his $35, because you get $5 for each win, so Mike can enjoy that. And our treasurer, present treasurer, Ed, had a great season. He had 8 wins, and he could come up and he's getting $40 back.
I want an audit of the account.
As I said, my son Todd and I, we tied for 3rd, so we just split it. So we had the honor of finishing in 3rd place. Nuri Boardman can't be here today. He received his check, and he finished in 2nd. But our distinguished 1st place winner, who had an outstanding inaugural season, Marty, I'm going to ask you to come up. Marty Raffner. Now, sparing no cost, we have his 1st place trophy. Marty, if you'll stand here so everybody could see, I don't want to.
Size of it.
Now, I want you to realize that this is truly, I hope, at least 100% plastic.
There's no cash award.
That's what I got. Not wanting to add any more value to it, I didn't even use my printer to make the face here. I used an ink pen. And I checked with Rich Dutkin, and he assured me, with his collectible knowledge, that in no more than 1 million years, this might even have some value. So, Marty, you do get that little award, but more importantly, his winnings of $272.50. Congratulations.
My wife thanks you. That's what paid for this. How many wins?
But guys, I think the other owners will tell you, the idea of this is to try to bring in new members. It's a fun thing. Truly, you do not have to be an expert in football. It pays to be lucky and that your players don't get hurt. But we had a lot of fun talking on the phone during the week, kidding each other about lineups, and we're hoping next year to expand it. We had 8 teams this year. We could easily go up to 12. We could do it where if 2 or 3 people want to have one team and share the cost, they could all be owners of one team. So it's a fun type thing. We want to do some things that are really fun and enjoyable. And
How much did each team have to put in?
it was $100. And you could see, the worst case scenario was somebody got 22 back.
It was fun, it really was.
Yeah, I mean, Marty, maybe you want to say, because this was your first time at it. First time at it, so.
Scale made all the decisions.
Not quite, not quite. It was an interesting thing. We started with the draft, and I still remember Mike picking Vic for $1 he got him, and he couldn't even give him away. But when we turned around and we started going, and people were getting their victories and their losses, and they couldn't understand what was happening. Players were getting hurt, and you're picking other representatives. My wife doesn't like football, doesn't let me watch the football. But when she heard I was in the running for first place, all of a sudden, how are you doing? So, I guarantee you this money will be well spent by her.
Ed, JCRC?
Check the name of the check.
And if you also want to mention coping with Christmas.
Okay. As you know, I'm on the board of the JCRC representing the men's club. They had a variety of programs which I won't go into because they're already done, but there's one coming up that's really special. It's a half-hour live acting presentation called Through the Eyes of a Friend. It's a one-woman show. She's depicting the friend of Anne Frank. And she's specifically trained in the history of the Holocaust and Anne Frank. So at the end of the half-hour presentation, she's going to respond to questions. And supposedly she has a whole background of information to answer those questions. I'll give this information on the play to Randy so that we can send the email out. It's specifically designed for children over 13, so your grandchildren, some of you, your children, you might want to invite them. It's going to be here. It's sponsored by the Holocaust Museum, which is part of the JCRC. The cost, by the way, is $6 per person. I highly recommend it. I was asked to also spend a few minutes to tell about our perhaps annual Coping with Christmas program that was started very spontaneously. It started out as a disaster.
We were coping with the coping.
We're coping with the coping. What happened was, my wife and I have Christian friends that for the last 7 or 8 years invited us for Christmas dinner, and they just broke up. So she turns to me and she says, I think we're going to have to do the movie and Chinese routine. And I said, you know what, maybe the men's club would want to do something like that. So spontaneously, we created a Coping with Christmas dinner. I called Rich Moskowitz because I thought it had to be a kosher facility. He told me of a place that was kosher, and it turned out to be the worst decision other than selling Apple at 80. It turned out to be my worst decision. When I called them, they guaranteed us that they can handle a large group. When I called the day before, which is what they told me, they said, oh, 20? We can only seat 16. So I figured, all right, we'll get some of the tables around. We got there. The table that we reserved was already filled. It was noisy. Some of us got so disgusted we left, and then there was another group that came and said, well, we have a table reserved for a large number. it was 8, and we were already occupying that table, so we all decided to get up and leave, so they took that table. But it turned out to be nice. A couple of the guys that left went on their own, and then the rest of us went to the Short Hills Deli, and we had a good time. And I'm hopeful that we will have this as an annual event for the men's club. If we can find a facility that will give us a room. Next.
And their food is lousy anyway.
At Short Hills, I don't know. We'll have to explore what restaurants are available and how many they can seat.
Originally go to that didn't have a reservation.
Cherry Grill. Yeah.
But we'll send something out in October of next year, and we'll try to get a better number. And we really did have a good time. And I thank Ed for all the hard work in putting that together and the stress he had in dealing with that vendor.
What about the Hamid's Hoedown? What about
You want to speak on it, Mike?
Yeah, the question that was asked was, for probably about 15 years, we would have, right after Passover, we would have a program, not a program, we had a dinner that we called the Hamid's Hoedown. And how many people would be interested in doing something like that again? We call it right after Passover, the very first dinner afterwards. We would get a room in a restaurant. Sometimes, I think we were able to arrange a room in a restaurant, and just the families all came together from the men's club, and we called it the Hamid's Hoedown. And sometimes there was a program, usually not, but it was something good to get together. And at the time, we weren't overly concerned with if it was a kosher menu or not. So we try to have a place where there's options for people to get things that are kosher style, let's say. But I'm glad to see that so many people have an interest in it.
Mike, can you maybe send something to Randy that we could send out to everybody via email?
Can I ask a quick question? If we can do this annual Coping with Christmas, how many of you would be interested in attending? That's a good turnout, too.
But not a dinner. Not a Cherry Hill.
Well, not at Cherry Hill, but not at dinner.
No, I think he was referring to lunch as opposed to
Lunch or late or earlier dinner.
I'll see what the response is, because if people are going to a movie, I don't think they're going to do lunch.
People are going to a movie, they're not going to do a dinner, too.
Yes, they are.
It's Christmas.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's take a quick guess. How many would prefer lunch over dinner? If we do a Christmas, Coping with Christmas dinner activity next year, how many would prefer lunch over dinner? How many would prefer dinner over lunch?
And you could do the movie if you want before dinner then. How's that? Okay, moving on. MEI, Bob, would you speak a few minutes on that? Actually, MEI and Super Sunday?
Yeah, we have two events that are coming up, and unfortunately, they're coming up back to back. Next month is, as you know, is the annual program for Super Sunday to raise money. We have been asked to handle and help with the food service which occurs on Super Sunday. That it would be January 26th, which is the same day as our meeting. What we'll be asked to do is to help set up platters in the morning for their breakfast, to help put out the platters and food for the lunch, and to, in the course of the day, put out sodas and water and this type of thing. We'll also, they've also asked if we can help out in picking up some of the food that will be donated, and also stuff that may have to be purchased. It will get our name on the program. So we will be listed as a participant in Super Sunday. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. Like I said, it falls on our meeting day, so we're going to have to work out some logistics, but I'm going to pass out a sign-up sheet for those who can be available sometime during the day, and we can work out the times. Basically, it's around the 9 o'clock hour in the morning, 8 to 9 in the morning. It's like 11 to 12 around the noon time. And then, like I said, during the course of the day, we'll need a couple of people to help put out. Yes, Mike?
Is this room going to be used by Super
No.
Sunday people?
No.
So we could, if we wanted to.
They know we're having a meeting here.
Why don't we have a meeting earlier?
What, 6 in the morning?
No, if we have our normal meeting, we're literally, if we don't have a speaker, we're literally done by 10:30. Yes, Nick?
So we can participate for both the meeting, our meeting and the Super Sunday meeting too?
Yeah, basically, we're going to be helping out with the food service.
But do we have a speaker next January, next month? Do we have a speaker?
Bob,
Scheduled?
just some logistics, I don't want to go confused. At 9, I have it down here, 9 o'clock is the breakfast, continental breakfast, Danish coffee, juice. Are we going to be helping set that up as well?
We would be helping set that up, but,
Because those people will not be coming to our meeting then.
well, how long would you think it would take to make up maybe 4 or 5 platters of Danish? The coffee service will be done, and that's about it.
Do the whole thing in 20 minutes.
So the feeling is that we could still have our own
But
meeting.
volunteers to do that, and that's the...
Well, that's why I'm passing out a
Do
sign-up.
you have a different time on that, though? That's the thing, we should have different time slots.
Okay, I'll tell you what.
All right.
Why don't you do that?
So I will still plan to have our regular meeting, then going down to Sports Super Sunday, but we're not going to have a speaker.
Well, we could have a short speaker.
Good.
Could get
Dave,
one-
can we have a speaker?
Mike's short.
Dave said we could do it. All right, so Dave, you'll arrange a speaker. Okay, great. And
Now, to complicate matters, unfortunately, we have the Mideast Institute, which is one of the major programs that we support every year. They moved it back a month. It was supposed to be in March. It's now going to, or actually they moved it forward a month. It's now going to be in February. It's going to be February 23rd, which also coincides with a meeting date. Okay? And I'm not even sure what the program is yet. I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah, it's going to be about the nuclear threat in Iran and
Again?
how it affects the Israelis and the Palestinians.
How many speakers are they going to have?
2 so far.
Okay, because this is, I'm on the committee and this is the first I've heard of it.
Both speakers, I think, are editors or contributors to the Forward. Goldberg, is that?
I have it in my office.
Yeah. Anyway,
so the question is, do we have another meeting in February, or do we just have and attend MEI?
We change the date? We do it the week earlier?
I think it's too much.
If so, what is the impact on the town?
traditionally, when we've had the MEI, we have not had a meeting, simply because of the amount of time that we have to put in to doing the MEI. I mean, compared to Super Sunday will be a walk in the park, because MEI is a 6 o'clock in the morning until roughly 1 o'clock in the afternoon participation.
And especially it being February, that worries me with the weather. So why don't we just go with the MEI for February?
Great. Now, I have a sign-up sheet for that. We need two sets of volunteers, those who will work in the kitchen and those who will work doing the room setup. So I'll pass that out. Now, we normally will get a discount for volunteering, just so that it is clear to everybody. If you want to get the discount, you must show up by 8 o'clock in the morning. If you don't show up by 8 o'clock, because the majority of the work will be done by then. If you're not there by 8 o'clock, you don't get the discount. So that there's no arguments about it. Because I know in the past, we've had people who have come at 9:30, and expected to get a discount. And I don't think that's fair to the people who show up at 6 o'clock in the morning and work.
And we can put that in the email maybe?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to send something to Randy to be sent out. Yes, Ned?
Can we volunteer and then go home?
If you wish to, yeah. There's no requirement that you have to stay, okay? If you decide to stay, your charge for the MEI is discounted, that's all. And normally we'll have 3 tables worth of guys, okay? So, any other questions? Yeah.
I just want to comment on Super Sunday. In addition to this new activity of supplying food, I also represent our board on the board that runs Super Sunday, the campaign council. And we've met a lot of resistance, but I'm still going to urge all of you to consider manning the phones as well. So there's no reason why we can't have our meeting in the morning, help out with the food, and then take over the phones. If you're willing to do the phones, I'll send out an email with the phone number that you would call JCC so you can sign up. You may also see an ad in the Voice where you can also sign up as a phone squad person.
Also clerical work.
Yeah, I was going to say, by the way, in addition to phone, they also need help during the course of the day with what they call clerical work. And a lot of that has to do with separating out pledge cards and a lot of other stuff. And believe me, it takes a lot of backroom work to get this thing started. Anyway, if there are no other questions, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Okay, one last thing before we have Dave introduce our speakers. If you were involved with the ABC program that we sponsored and you incurred a cost that you turned in a receipt for, would you please let Ed know? We received a check and we're not sure if it belongs to somebody in particular. Dave, would you join us up here and introduce our speakers? Yes, we have a bunch of books that were brought in. Those are yours for the taking. Those that are not picked up will be given to the JCC. Also, remember eyeglasses, phones, we collect those. Toiletries. All of those are important things for you to put those in. Dave.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I'd like to say that our guests today were nice enough to bring a beautiful dessert tray, the big round tray. I hope you people enjoyed it. There's a wonderful lemon bar on there. But thank you very much. We appreciate it. And I think I'm correct in saying the company that makes these things is a client of yours?
We're going to explain it.
Fine. Okay. January's meeting will be hosted by Rabbi Address from Makor Shalom. He is scheduled as our speaker. Rabbi Address has a radio program on, I think it's 860 AM radio, Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock. And interestingly enough, I just found out that there's a Jewish program on every day, I think it's 7 days a week, on the same radio station, 860 AM, of Jewish music. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been on there for years, a lot of years.
So, tune in. Anyway, just a little side note, Jake Silpe is a famous basketball star in the community, and by chance I was reading the Enquirer, I believe yesterday or the day before, yesterday's paper, and I see the article about Jake Silpe, and I said, well, Silpe is an unusual name. I wonder if it's a relative, and it is, of our speaker today, Lydia's son. So I find that very exciting. What a small world it is. And one last note before I introduce our guests. The cosmetics that everyone is nice enough to bring in every month, I package up, and in about the last year have donated to our speakers group this morning, the Jewish Family and Children's Services rather than some other organizations. And as far as I know, it's being used. So keep bringing those in. I know there's a big bag of product today, so thank you very much. Our speakers are from JFCS to speak about their organization, who they are, what they do, and how we would like to try to work with them. We will work with them in the future. Be a wonderful blend of our two organizations. Ann Miller is the vice president, a neighbor and friend of mine as well, who will be inducted as president in May of the coming year. Lydia Silpe is also a vice president in charge of, I'm trying to remember, grants and outreach with JFCS. So I'd like to welcome them for coming. Thank you very much. And again, thank you for the goodies. We appreciate it.
I'll use it. I have a lot to hold. So first, before I begin, I'd like to ask, how many of you know what JFCS, Jewish Family and Children's Service, is? Okay, that's good. For those of you who don't know, I didn't know. I lived in Cherry Hill for about 10 years before I ever heard of Jewish Family and Children's Service, and I live right down the street. So I'll give you an idea. Jewish Family and Children's Service is a social services agency, and we are, like JCRC, a part of the Jewish Federation system. Jewish Federation acts more or less as our parent agency, and we are one of its subsidiary agencies. We do our own fundraising, we do our own programming, we share a building, we actually work here in this building, and we try to partner with and work closely with the other agencies. But the things that we do are separate and apart from JCC and Jewish Federation and JCRC. We've been in existence for about 70 years. I started with Jewish Family as a volunteer. My daughter was going to be bat mitzvahed, and as most B'nai Mitzvah children do, they look for mitzvah opportunities, something that they can give back to the community, and many times it is a portion of their gifts. And I just felt, as many do, that to a 12 or 13-year-old, giving a few $100s was not overly meaningful, because most of these kids, even giving that, do not go without. And so it was important to me and my husband that we found a mitzvah project for our daughter where she could give back to the community. And so someone told us to go to Jewish Family and Children's Service and meet with the director of the volunteer program. And so we did that, and for 5 years, she and I were friendly visitors to a homebound senior. And we changed her life, and she changed mine. I left my career as a practicing attorney and decided that I wanted to work for Jewish Family. And so I went back to the director of volunteers and said, I don't care what you have me do, I just want to work at Jewish Family. And so now, almost 6 years later, I stand here as the grant writer for Jewish Family and Children's Service. And in that role, and I use my lawyering skills, I try to be very persuasive. In that role, I look for funding for our agency so that we can provide programming at a reduced price, at a free price, at a fair price for community members who need it. And so I'd like to tell you a little bit about those programs. We focus really on 5 components: counseling, senior services, special needs, family assistance, and volunteer. And I'd like to walk you through a little bit. And please, if at any time anyone has any questions or doesn't understand, just interrupt. Counseling, we have a counseling program. We have therapists who are in this building who see children, adolescents, teenagers, couples, marriage counseling, and they consult with and meet on a one-on-one basis with individuals who suffer from anxiety, depression, addiction, all sorts of problems that come about in the path of life. Separation, divorce. We also address those difficulties with group settings, group counseling, and we try to be responsive to community needs. And so we welcome individuals calling to say, hey, do you have this program? And if you don't, would you consider doing it? And we'll speak a little bit later about some of our newer programs. But for example, it seemed that there was a time when individuals were asking a lot, unfortunately, for a group to deal with the loss of a young child. And so we recently provided that. We provide surviving separation support groups. So that's a little bit about our counseling program. We offer counseling at an ability to pay rate, whatever an individual is able to pay. We accept insurance, but if a family cannot afford the program, we provide it for them at a reduced rate or for free, which creates a wait list, because I'm sure many of you realize that counseling sessions are very expensive, and when a community program offers it for free, there are some challenges with being able to meet all of the needs of the community. So we do try to do that and try to have a reduced wait list. Approximately 300 clients have been served this year through our counseling department, and equate to about 5,000 sessions of counseling. We serve, just as a general rule, we served this year over 10,000 individuals in the community, and we engaged 750 volunteers. Another program that we have is senior services. And the senior services mission is to enable individuals to age in place, to stay in your homes and be with your friends and be with your neighbors and be in your comfortable surroundings with our assistance. And so we provide home services for individuals so that they can age safely and with dignity and in a very active and healthy manner. So those services include an assessment. Someone will come to your home and determine whether it is safe for you to stay there. Are you going to trip over your mat now that you can't see so well? Are you able to hear your phone ring, your doorbell ring? Will you remember that you turned on a pot? Different assessments that social workers will conduct. There's housekeeping, there's home care services. We also offer kosher Meals on Wheels for individuals who are unable to cook for themselves but still want a healthy meal. We offer that, and those meals are delivered to your home. We also provide nursing assistance for individuals who need to have their medication put out for them. We offer transportation for individuals who need to get to doctor's appointments and can't do so if they don't have the ability themselves to drive or they don't have family or friends in the area. And we'll talk a little bit about one of our programs with regard to transportation for seniors, and it's called Patient Partners. It's an innovative program, and keep it in mind as we go through. Yes?
As you're going through the list, would you make note of where you might be able to help?
Sure. And generally, it's in the volunteer section of the presentation that I will talk to you about it. But if you can envision, for example, seniors, we are always looking for individuals who can drive the seniors to their appointments. Any of our volunteer services are really about how much time you want to give. It can be once a month, it can be once a year, it can be every day. We really work with our volunteers to ensure that they are happy and fulfilled in their role as a volunteer, while at the same time helping so many in our community receive services that they need. And so transportation is one. The other, Ann will speak about, is a patient advocate through our Patient Partners program. Going on to special needs. We work with young adults who have special needs, many of whom are very high-functioning young adults. And to that end, we help them as they transition from high school into their future life Many of them do not go to college, but many look to be a contributing member of the community through work. And so we have a very successful and active supported employment program where we have social workers who work with kids beginning in high school, helping them to transition from a vocational standpoint into the community. And we are very fortunate to have worked with over 100 employers in the community who are willing to hire our clients. And once they do, well, even before they do, our social workers will work with these young adults first in interviewing skills, identifying what they may be good at, what their interests might be, what their availability may be, are they able to get to a certain place. And so, for example, Holman Infinity, Target, Home Depot, these are just a few of the employers who have been willing to employ some of our young adults with special needs. And so, again, you asked me, how is it that the Men's Club can help? Perhaps one of you owns a business. Perhaps one of you visits a business often and could think sort of out of the box, how could I have a young adult with special needs help me in my business? And it is truly a win-win, because not only are you helping a young person break into the community and hope to someday be self-sufficient, but even at the beginning, you're almost getting a 2-for-1 bargain in that our young adults come with a job coach. And that job coach is from our agency, and that job coach will sit with the young individual, listen to the instructions of the boss, and help them through the job day to day until they are, if they ever are, able to do it themselves. So it could be anything from delivering flowers to, go ahead.
Oh, what geographic area are we talking about? Just Cherry Hill?
It doesn't have to be Cherry Hill, no. Many of these young adults are able to drive, and so they can venture through South Jersey. We, I think, are about to place someone in Philadelphia. And so, again, many are high functioning and willing to drive and get to the location that they need to go. So we ask for people to try to be creative and think about, and oftentimes it's the job that no one else really wants to do. A couple of years ago, we had one of the managers from Home Depot give a presentation about one of the employees that they hired of ours who was responsible for shopping carts in the parking lot of the Home Depot, a job that really no one else wanted to do, particularly on the days where it was 95 degrees or 12 degrees and snowing. And yet this young man looked at this job as though it was the President of the United States. He was so happy to be there every day, and it inspires others, and it creates a very nice work environment for those who take their job for granted. So the special needs program, in addition to vocational programming, also offers social and recreational programming so that these individuals not only are able to be self-sufficient, but socially happy and engaged with others who are like them. And so we provide date and movie nights. We have an adult day program for young adults so that they can get together and do art and listen to music. And it's really wonderful. The term for this program is called SAIL, which stands for Supports to Achieve Independent Living. And we have had trips to Israel with many of our clients. We really have no limit to what we are able to do with them. We also support the siblings and the families of these young adults so that they can work through, particularly the younger siblings, any issues they may have. The volunteer program. The volunteer program engages about 750 people throughout the year. As I said before, it can be a one-time working with our agency, doing a food drive, for example, being part of a mitzvah, or it can be something that's pretty regular. We are fortunate now to have many men who are retired who come to our food pantry and help to bring food and deliver food and meals to individuals in our community. We welcome their muscles because many of us are women who aren't capable of some of that heavy lifting, but they do it with pride and with joy, and it's really a nice thing. In your packet that I've left over there, and I encourage each of you to take, there are many volunteer opportunities that are listed, and they do not limit your volunteer potential. If there is something that you are good at, if your career lends itself to teaching someone else, we welcome that opportunity as well. And in fact, we have had and hope to continue to have, not for our special needs community, but for those who are finding themselves from the typical world unemployed, we look for individuals who can help with career counseling and perhaps guiding or teaching workshops to get some of those individuals employed. Which brings me to the final program that I'd like to speak about, which is the Family Assistance Program. And I understand that many of you have heard before Ann's presentation about our food pantry. So I won't bore you with the details of that, other than to say that we do operate 3 food pantries in the community, and we welcome donations of canned and non-perishable food items. We supplement the food with perishable food items from community farms. Some of the synagogues will do cook for a friend, and we have homemade frozen meals that we give out. We also give out emergency financial assistance to those who need it. This past year, we gave over $50,000 to individuals and families who were struggling to make that utility bill or pay that month's rent. And so we try to help individuals and families get out of some of the difficulty that they may find. I'm not sure that there's any other numbers I can give you. I think I already said how many clients we have. We operate with about a $4 million budget, and we don't have a marketing or outreach budget, so that is me trying to engage the community. And aside from being a grant writer, my role as an outreach coordinator is really threefold. First, I want to make sure that everyone here and everyone I speak to knows about this agency and that we are here to help. We're a phone call away if you're struggling, a family member is struggling, and you think you need something, even placing a senior. You know, my mom now can't walk, what do I do? Whatever it is, we want to be here for the community, Jewish or non-Jewish. So that's the first thing. The second is we hope to engage those who have the time as volunteers to help us serve the community. And finally, we look for individuals to help support our programs, either with your time, your interest, or your support. I'd like to turn the program over now to Ann while I boot up the computer and cross my fingers and hope the video works.
So,
thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. I wanted to thank you for inviting us all back here. I know I was here at the end of the summer, and thank you for inviting us to come back. Lydia gave you a good overview of things, and my job today is to update you on what's new initiatives, and update you on some things. When I was here at the end of the summer, I spoke specifically about our food pantry and the need for food. As fast as that food comes in, it goes out. And the summer is a tough time because children are not in school. They're not getting that supplemental food. So our summer demand goes up. At that time, we had the Family Food Distribution Day. It was right after Yom Kippur. And a number of you came out and helped us that day. And it was an amazing experience to see all that food and all those people working together. So we thank you. And just wanted to update you, since then, the food stamp program in the country, the SNAP program, has experienced cuts. So we're seeing a very increased demand on the food pantries. And correct me if I'm wrong, you know, we've talked about the fact that a few people would come in a day to get food. That number has now gone up to about 12 to 15 people coming in a day to get their food.
And as many as 25 on some days.
All right, and just so you know, if somebody comes in one time, they get what they need, and we don't ask a lot of questions. If they come back a second time, then we request that they do an intake, because if you need more food, there might be other services you need or other ways we can help you, so then we do an intake. Yeah, Mike?
Do you have incidences where you run out of food?
There are times where the shelves are low, yes.
It may not be totally
Right,
empty, but
right.
it may be we've run out of pasta, or we've run out of baby formula. We have a list, and it is also enclosed in your packet, of the high demand foods.
And I know we talked before about this group, when you came in on Sundays or for your meeting, you would bring some food, we would get it to the front desk, and then Andy Lowe, the head of our volunteer program, would pick it up on Monday. So we appreciate what you've done. Okay, so the food pantry. All right, now, I wanted to also update you on a couple new initiatives. As you've seen, our programs evolve as we see needs. So one of the needs that we saw with our special needs population was that the young adults who were getting jobs in food service were traditionally getting very low-level positions, dishwashers, sorting silverware, things that were very low level, very low pay, but they had abilities to do more. So a program was developed called Soups and Sweets. And we did have the tray out here. We did bring you a taste, pun totally intended, of this new program. Soups and Sweets is a collaborative program between Bethel and JFCS. It's a food service training program for young adults with special needs. It's run by a chef who is a fabulous teacher. These young adults get about 200 hours of training. So they're learning specific skills for the kitchen, but they're also learning good work skills, which they can transfer to any work setting. And he's developed a manual for them, and it's just an amazing program. If you ever want to go and visit it, it's 2 days a week at Bethel, and we could set people up to go visit it if you want. But they started in 2011. The first class graduated, I think 9 graduates, and I think about half of those are now employed with higher level food service skills. So that has worked out really well. And now the update is that this program has developed into a small catering business. And I've personally used them, and they're great too. So we just wanted to make you aware of that there is a small catering business. They create soups, desserts, breads, muffins, and can do catering main dishes. So keep them in mind. And we just received our first year-long, yes?
The JCC has a lot of affairs with where food is
Right.
given. Does this catering unit ever participate in that?
Well, it's growing now. We just got a grant that is allowing us to go into this small catering business. So yes, and the answer is yes.
And it will be in the JCC?
I'm hoping.
Oh, okay. I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, it would be good. We just got our first year-long contract with Temple Beth Shalom. So Soups and Sweets will be doing the Saturday morning kiddush there, which is exciting. And I'll leave it at that. If you have any other questions, I can answer that. The other program I wanted to talk about is Patient Partners. And that program is a combination of our volunteers and our seniors. And that came out of the need, again. Many seniors who are living independently have doctor's appointments, and it's hard for them to get there, and it's hard for them to maneuver their way through the doctor's appointment. And those of us who have taken care of aging parents or relatives, we know what it's like. I know with my parents, we had to make sure one of us went to the doctor's appointment so that we could ask the right questions, we could get the right answers, and then we would come back and tell the rest of my siblings, what the story was. A lot of people don't have that luxury because their children don't live nearby, they're working full-time, and there was a need there. So we have developed a program called Patient Partners. I think it's about a year old at this point. And we have people who are trained to be patient advocates, and they will develop a relationship with someone. They are matched up with someone. They will take them to their doctor's appointments. They go with them. They ask the questions. They write down the answers. They come back. They can share that information with family members. And it's really been an amazing experience to see that program evolve. Two other things that I wanted to mention. I know that we've talked about our Project SARAH, SARAH, which stands for Stop Abusive Relationships at Home. And that's our domestic abuse program. And that's when people always say, come on, this is Cherry Hill, Voorhees, domestic abuse? Yes, there's significant domestic abuse. And it may not be physical abuse, but it could be mental abuse, financial abuse, all different kinds of abuse. And right now, I think we have about 50 women and their families who are actively being served by JFCS. Something that's kind of a dream of ours that's in the works right now is we've dreamed about having a safe house set up that we could use, and it's coming into a reality, and so we're working on that, and I wanted to share that with you. And then one other thing I just wanted to share is that we're in the process of developing a program for veterans. So I don't know how far along we are in that process, but they're working on what are the needs. So that's something that I think that you should be aware of. Did I? You did. Okay. Bob, did you have a question?
I was just saying that many years ago, sometime, I volunteered for something for the Federation, and I took some Russian immigrants that could hardly speak their car to New Jersey to get money, or some people to the doctor. Believe me, it was a blessing. Myself, for them,
no, absolutely.
Some of them, that they hardly speak in the
We had a very, very large program that we were involved in. And what we found, though, was what we do is periodically we reevaluate our programs to see if the need's still there, how we can tweak it, and that program for the Russian immigrants was not needed the way it was. So it's kind of more, it's still being done as needed through other programs. But you know what, Bob, you're right, because I'm a friendly visitor for a 93-year-old woman who is one of the most charming people I've ever met in my life. And I was doing it originally because I was going to do something good for her. And I have to tell you, what she has done for me is amazing. So, Lydia, are we ready for?
I'm trying.
I'm not the techie person. Scott, you have a question?
And where are the food banks? Are they?
The food pantries?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 3 food pantries. One is at, sorry, like that. One is at our main office, which is the JFCS office is on the corner of the JCC building, as if you're coming around to go to Saltzman.
Yeah.
But it's right on the corner there, so that's one. We have a food pantry on Route 70, which is in the building that also houses Senator Beach's office. You'll see his sign out there, it's across from the cemetery there, you'll see his sign, and then it says JFCS. And then the third one is in Burlington County, that's near Route 38 in Monroe.
Oh, here we go.
Absolutely.
Since this has been a very good year for the stock market.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what we do also, like Lydia mentioned, we have the non-perishables in the food pantry, but we will purchase gift cards to the supermarkets and give people gift cards so that they can purchase milk and bread and eggs and things that we can't store in our food pantries. I know I recently did a food drive where we live at Centennial Mill and reached out to some wonderful people who are even in this room today. And it was unbelievable, the amount of food that came in, and then we had somebody take it to the pantries. But I have to tell you, Scott, it's out, it doesn't sit.
Well, with 1.3 million people getting their long-term unemployment benefits cut, demand is going to go.
Yeah, right.
Can we set up a place where, like, we bring the toothbrushes, can we bring in a can or something every time we go meet?
Ed was just bringing that up. I'm going to bring that up at my next board meeting.
Fine.
And we can discuss it and get back to the general membership, how we can best support it.
And what we said was anything you collect, you get it to the front desk, we alert Annie Lowe, and then Monday morning she'll come to the front desk and get it. So that would be terrific. Lydia?
Investment Club, if you're interested, Art's not here, but you can have a meeting immediately after the meeting. Dave, would you like to mention about lifelong learning while...
Yeah, while this is going on, I left on every table some lifelong learning
It's a DVD
brochures.
that's in here.
Now, this is only good for people who are retired, who can come here during the daytime. They have fantastic programs. They have movies. They have discussions of history, discussions of music, and hearing music, and so forth. And I usually go to at least a half a dozen of these different things here. So if you're available in daytime, and I know they've had registration for a while, maybe some of these classes are already taken, but I really recommend you consider attending some of these courses. So if you are available, please take one of these home. There are others that are on different tables throughout the building. So please take a look at it, and I will tell you that these instructors are usually excellent.
And Ann, I'm going to ask you, Lydia, we're going to buy her a couple of seconds. We're going to let you do the 50-50 for us. Oh, you know.
It's a lot of pressure.
Here's the power.
You have to pull one ticket out.
Let's see what happens now.
Mix them all up.
And if you don't pull mine, it's fixed.
Okay, see it. I see it. Now let's just wait and see.
Check your ticket. Winning number, 375.
I got it.
875.
I'm one off.
I got it.
All free tickets, huh?
You got it. Oh, what was it? $49. $49.
Well, you know, this is not synced up.
Yes, it is. Here's this. Here's this.
No. It has to be synced up.
A couple of tidbits about what's going on in Israel.
Let me see something.
As you know, this is the Christmas holiday season, and the Palestinian Authority issued its annual holiday message, in which this year it took credit for Jesus Christ, calling him a Palestinian. He was born a Palestinian, he died a Palestinian, and his only connection with Judaism was that Jews killed him. So that's what we get out of the Palestinian Authority. I thought that was quite amusing.
How is the church responding to this?
Number two, oh, you got something on number one?
Well, number one, the interesting thing about that is that it wasn't for another 700 years later that the Arabs invaded and colonized the Jewish and Christian land of Palestine. 700 years later.
But he was a Palestinian. Number two, the Palestinian Authority had often claimed that it was Israel who killed Yasser Arafat. And eventually, after 5 or 6 years of this claim, they exhumed his body.
We could bring you back.
And they examined
the
it.
video.
And
So you know you don't have to feel like
Thank you.
he's still dead and he's still down there.
It's a DVD.
His soul is down
You
there.
turn it off and start over again. Sometimes that's what you need.
It's now been
Turn everything off and start.
clearly ascertained by the world community that he died of natural causes. And this week, actually scientists from Russia agreed that he died of natural causes. And not radiation poisoning or glass poisoning or however, any of the other theories that have popped up. Okay.
Unfortunately, in Russia, dying from a natural cause could be a bullet in the head.
Well, that couldn't happen to a nicer Arafat.
All right, so I just wanted to fill in some time.
Jerry, tell about the BDS movement and the American Studies Association.
Yeah, I'll let you do it. I don't know how to preface it, the name of the organization that was created.
Some of you may have heard of the BDS movement against Israel. That's the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. And it hasn't really gained a lot of traction, but it does get a great deal of publicity. And the big news in the Israel advocacy world lately was that within the last month, the American Studies Association voted to boycott all Israeli colleges and universities. Now, academic one. It's very interesting in that the American Studies, their entire board, there's no one that has any background or credentials in Middle East studies, and yet they voted to do this, and it has about 5,000 members total. Now, one way to remember about the BDS movement, it really truly is a movement to belittle, defame, and slander the only Jewish country in the entire world. Now, the danger isn't that you've got this basically a rinky-dink little organization boycotting Israel. The danger is the snowball effect. There's other small groups doing this. Recently, this past summer, the Methodist Church of Great Britain had a large conference about whether or not to participate. No, that's not true. The degree of their participation in the BDS movement. Their main course of discussion was whether or not to urge people to boycott produce and goods from just the West Bank, Judea, Samaria, or from all of Israel. Now, that's just one more, and there's other groups that have this on their agenda. So you need to be kept up to date about this, and if you hear people discussing the BDS movement, remember, belittle, defame, and slander. Dave?
Well, the good thing for us is that the Philadelphia University
It's not getting a signal from the
slammed this particular request. But the guy who was in charge was asked, why Israel? Why not mention all these other places where terror is going on? His comment was, well, we have to start someplace.
That's right. Actually, one of the theories is you don't go after a cause where it's the worst case of victims. You go after a cause where you think the accused perpetrators are most vulnerable to influence. And in this case, the accused perpetrator is Israel. And if you really look into the documented evidence and facts about it, it's absolutely bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. The smallest little thing I'll say is because it looks like we still need a filler.
No,
We're not? We're good? You got it?
No,
All
we're
right.
going to bring them back.
More later.
You're going to see me again.
What we're going to do, because we are getting up against the clock, I asked Lydia if she would come back at a future meeting and we could focus on the video when we have enough appropriate time for it. So, that's what we're going to do. Lydia, I do have a certificate for you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And Bob asked me to give a reminder regarding the investment club is meeting that table over here. And any other remarks for the good of the order?
Just remember to return name tags.
Return name tags. And as far as the board is concerned, I'll probably send out an email. We do need to get a board meeting, and we have several topics now to cover. Also, thank you to our guests for joining us, and we hope that you'll be more than guests and actually join us as members. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us.